everyone, Brian Coolis here from Native Instruments. I'm excited to be back at Guitar Center to introduce to you the latest addition to the Maschine family, the Maschine Jam. This awesome piece of hardware allows me to quickly sequence rhythms, play melodies and bass lines in exciting new ways, arrange my song in a matter of seconds, and also manipulate my sound for really cool sound design. So let's just dive right into it and show you what this piece of hardware can do. Let's first take a look at the overall layout of Maschine Jam. So the pad matrix section here, I can trigger different patterns from here. I can play out melodies and bass lines and basically turn this into a keyboard. I can also step sequence and play my beats live using all of these pads here. At the top here, I have my different scenes or the different sections of my record. For example, an intro, verse, breakdown, and a chorus, and so on. The buttons down here, these are my groups within inside of Maschine. You'll recognize these group buttons from previous versions of Maschine. So the groups can be a collection of 16 sounds or even 16 instruments. This section down at the bottom here, the smart strips, have a lot of different functionality. So for example, I can adjust the volume of individual groups. I can adjust the volume per sound, but I can also manipulate sounds using the control function down here. And the control function basically is the same 8 knobs that I would have on Maschine or the same 8 knobs on a complete control keyboard, except in this case, I'm actually able to use 8 of my fingers simultaneously to sculpt out my sound. So I can also use the touch strips to use performance effects, which is unique to the recent update for Maschine, where I can essentially just use one touch strip or all 8 touch strips and they'll automatically turn on an effect and let me manipulate parameters just by moving my fingers up and down. I also have a notes mode where I'm able to strum or play melodic sequences using the touch strips, allowing me to really create a new and unique style of music. Now, I also have this cool feature called Lock, which basically allows me to actually save 64 snapshots of parameters that allow me to either quickly switch between different sound settings or sound parameters, but I can also morph or transition between these different snapshots over 1 bar or 2 bars as well. So I can actually create volume switches just by changing some of the snapshots and creating essentially a transition from one section of my song into another. I can also do additional things such as tuning and swing, controlling my aux sends and macro control as well. And down at the bottom here, I have my basic transport control where I can play, restart, add a metronome, adjust tempo, all from down here at the bottom. I also have this section here on the left, which allows me to toggle in and out between the different modes that the pad matrix can do. So I could turn this into step mode, for example. I can turn this into pad mode where I can play out my beats live. But there's also some editing capabilities as well, such as clearing patterns or scenes, duplicating or doubling the length of a pattern. Now if I do shift pad mode, I'm able to play the pads like a keyboard. I can also just touch the encoder here and change what scale I want these pads to be in so I can never play a wrong note. So right now it's set to a chromatic scale. Let me change it to a minor pentatonic scale. And you can actually see that the pads have changed. So the white pads indicate the root note of this scale. So I can dial in whatever scale that I want, and I can also set this to chord mode, so when I hit one note, it plays a chord or 3 or 4 notes. Step mode also works if you have Maschine plugged in. So I can actually play my beat live using Maschine and then actually edit certain notes using the Jam hardware. So if I just record in a quick beat, now I want to quantize it, so shift the quant. So if I play in my beat live using Maschine, I can actually add an additional kick drum or some more hi-hats while I'm in step mode on Jam. Everything that I play on Maschine, it's all just being recorded into the Maschine software, and both of these are controlling the software simultaneously, so they work in tandem together. Now, if you don't have a Maschine, but you still want to play in your beats live, I can just hit pad mode, and now my 16 pads in the bottom right turn into the 16 pads that I would have on a Maschine, and I can just hit record and play in my beat live. Now, I'm not the world's best finger drummer, so in this case, I like to use note repeat to create my rhythms. So I can just hit note repeat and then hold down the buttons here and have the kick or the hi-hat be repeated. Another unique feature with Jam is this notes function here. So let me add a new pattern. So I have on group D, I have this melodic sound. So I'm gonna make a new pattern, and right now it's a 1-bar pattern, but I wanna extend this to, let's say, 4 bars. So I can actually hold shift and hit solo, and now I can make this pattern 4 bars long, or maybe I want 8, or even 64 bars long. But in this case, let's just set it to 4 bars. When I hit notes mode, I'm able to strum or play the touch strips like a keyboard or a guitar. So if I strum up, I can strum down, or I can play individual sections on the touch strip. Now, there's a couple other notes modes that I can turn the pad matrix into. So right now it's on chords mode, where it basically creates triads that I can strum. There's also a guitar mode where I have traditional style guitar tuning. And I can also put this in user mode and construct my own chords using the pads here at the top. I can also dial in a particular scale using the Jam hardware so that the strumming or the notes that I'm playing are always going to be in key. So if I want to set this to a blues scale and go back to chords mode, it's always going to be in key. In Maschine Update 2.5, there were some new effects that got added, and these are called performance effects. So if I hit the perform button, I already have a couple of these effects loaded up per group. So for example, on group A, I have an effect called stutter. And there's a wide range of effects that I can choose from. So for example, group A, I have the stutter effect. Group B, I have a filter. There's also some additional effects such as flanger, burst echo, reso echo, ring mod, tremolo, and then also my personal favorite, the scratcher. So I can actually scratch a beat or a melody using the touch strip. If you don't have a jam and use the touch strips, you can actually still use Maschine to control these effects. In that case, you would just use the 8 knobs to turn on the effect and start adjusting some of the parameters. Anything that I do on the touch strips though, I can actually automate it as well. So I have this auto button down here that I basically just hold it down, or I can toggle it by pinning it. And anytime I adjust anything on the touch strips, it's automatically going to be recorded as automation. Now, above the auto button, I have this control section. Now, control allows me to manipulate sounds or basically control parameters on an effect or a sound. Let's say I want to adjust some of the parameters on that melodic sound that I have. I can just hold control and select sound slot 1, and now the 8 touch strips down here allow me to manipulate parameters on that sound. Now, the 8 touch strips, again, I can manipulate a sound using them, or if I was on a keyboard, for example, I could still use the same 8 knobs at the top of the keyboard to manipulate the same parameters. So the 8 touch strips are the same as the 8 knobs on a complete control keyboard, and they're also the same knobs as a Maschine. So it doesn't really matter what hardware you're on, you can still manipulate all the same parameters. So as you can see, there's a lot of unique features that Jam has to offer. The whole idea is that I'm able to quickly create my song and arrange it just using the Jam hardware. To learn more about Jam, visit your local Guitar Center or go to guitarcenter.com.